Hello and welcome to Lightways at Life Astrologer with me, Anna Isabel. And I am very happy to welcome my guest today, who is Teri Nudleman. Hello, Teri.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for inviting me, first of all. And it's really nice. I have when Anna had told me, would you like to come and talk? And I was like so happy because I follow her. I'm a follower. I'm a fan. So I was like, oh, of course, I watch everything. I mean, it's like I have all the time. If I cannot watch at that moment, they are saved. So I know that I have to watch later, etc. So I'm like, yes, yes.
Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so happy that you enjoy the
Yeah,
interview on this channel. Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I was very intrigued because I saw something that you had shared and posted about the 36 decans and the link to the tarot. So I thought, what a fascinating topic to explore with you. Would you first of all tell us about the 36 decans? For those who are new to this, what are they?
First of all, I think let's explain it like this. I mean, like according in the traditional astrology, like when you look at there's a kind of scoring system in a way that there are like five essential dignities, and according to that we have the rulership, and then all this exaltation, etc., and the terms, and the decans is like in five of them is in the bottom of the list in a way, but I think they are still fascinating. I think the way that they come all the way to us from the ancient Egypt, it's like they were using it for timing, and also I think for I mean later for talisman magic and also for healing. I mean they were following all those fixed stars, and according to that they were trying to like find their ways in a way. So I think it's in that sense, it's like they are the bottom of the list, but I think they are really fascinating in that sense. And then why are they called decans? Because they are like this, every 10 degrees of a sign is called one decan. And since we have 12 signs times 3, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 12 times 3, we have 36 decans in our hands.
So this is traditional astrology, and it is part of the dignity system,
Yeah.
where we determine the strength of a planet, and then the which. So we have the planet in a sign, and then depending on the degree of the sign, which decan that degree happens to be in, whether it's 5 degrees, 15 degrees, or 25 degrees, that has an additional meaning, which then also is linked to the dignity, how it shows us it's an extra point or an extra deduction in terms of the strength of the actual planet. So for those who are
Exactly.
unfamiliar with traditional astrology, this is how it works. So each sign then has three decans, and each decan is has a meaning. Why? How does that work, Teri?
I mean, each decan, I mean, there are different orders, of course. I mean, like there's a Chaldean order that comes from the Chaldeans, the from Babylonia, and then they were looking at the sky, and then they decided that, I mean, not they decided, but according to the speed of the planets, okay, they said, okay, Saturn is the slowest one, and then going to, because they are only looking at the seven planets, traditional planets, because that's visible in the sky for them, and then they go down from Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and that's the order, which is the descending order. That's what we call. And according to that, I mean, it's like every decan has one decan ruler according to that order. And there is also triplicity order, what they call, which is the triplicity. I mean, like being in the same sign, I mean, same element group. For example, if we are talking about fire, we are talking about the Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And then if we are in the first decan of Aries, it would be Aries. After Aries, which fire sign comes? Leo. Okay, now that's the ruler of Leo, which is the sun. And then the Sagittarius comes, which is the ruler of Sagittarius. It's only traditional. It's like Jupiter. Okay, then the decan ruler is Jupiter. So what kind of, there's also Menelaus, of course, from the people that may know about him. He has written this great source of poetry called Astronomica, and there are 5 books in it. And in the 4th book, he's also talking about the decans, but he, instead of assigning a planet to each decan as the ruler, he's matching them with signs. So it goes from the top, from Aries it starts, and then every 12 decans, it comes back to the top. So that's a different version, but I don't think so that it's much in practice at the moment. There may be people using that. So why are they important? So it can give a, like, how different extra fixed stars, asteroids, etc. are being used. Of course, these are the traditional astrology part. And if we know the decan ruler, it can give us a different perspective and additional information about the expression of that specific planet in that sign. That's why it's important. It's it's in a way widening our perspective and giving us extra information about that specific placement in the chart.
So it's adding nuance, isn't it? It's just adding little bits of information, because yes, Aries is Aries, but there are differences amongst people who are born under the sign of Aries. And it's not just the fact that their charts are going to be different, it's just that the Aries itself can have different expressions according to which part of the month or that period of Aries from 0 to 30 you happen to be born in. So this is adding nuance in the same way as you say that asteroids might add more detail, more information, and anything else that we might be using in astrology. Okay, so that much is clear. How does this relate to the tarot?
Yeah, that's the tarot part is really interesting. For the people who may not know, there was a kind of secret society that was established towards the end of the 19th century, which was the exact date is 1888. It's like 888, and which was called the Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn. Very, very nice name. And it was founded by the Samuel Mathers, and there's William Woodman and William Westcott, these 3 people who were Freemasons, and at the same time they were from the Rosicrucian order as well. And they said that they are going to build this society, occult and magic, and everything, Kabbalah, but Kabbalah not like the Jewish Kabbalah we are talking. It's more like mystic Kabbalah with Q. That was Hermeticism, alchemy, and everything was within this society. And they decided to build this society. And when they created, of course, tarot decks, etc., they started associating the planets, the signs, and the decans. And when it came to decans, they had the suites and the minor arcana cards in their hands. But of course, if you know the suites in a traditional tarot deck, there are 10 cards. But and 4 suites, 10 cards. Normally it should be 40, no? But it doesn't correspond to 36 that we have in our hands. So aces were excluded. And the reason is that it wasn't a practical reason, okay, we need one out, so let's get the aces out. It wasn't some practical reason for that, because aces, I mean, were interesting. I mean, they were thinking like related with more superior power, and there is a tetragrammaton, four-letter name for God, that were associated with the aces, or that were associated, I mean, like we have the air element, fire element, water element, and earth element. And when we put them all together, each ace was corresponding with a Hebrew letter, which goes with Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, which brings us to Yehovah, which is one of the names of the gods. So, and also if the people are a bit familiar with the aces, they will, in the Rider-Waite Smith deck, they will know that there's a hand coming through the clouds, and that feels very like, there's the hand of God, because there's a lot of Christian and religious symbology that is involved in the Rider-Waite Smith. So there's something superior that is initiating things. So that's why aces were included, because that belonged to something superior, whether you believe in God or not, but it was belonging to something superior. That's why it was excluded from this calculation, and we had only 2 to 10 that were associated with the decans in the minor arcana cards.
Okay, so does this go, this is across all of tarot, or is it one specific tradition of tarot?
It's I think it's Golden Dawn and Rider-Waite Smith. I think at a point they got into each other quite a lot, and I don't know if today's tarot creators are necessarily saying that, okay, our suites and the minor arcana cards are just like, you can just assign the decans to them, but in Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn, and after that, after when the Rider-Waite Smith deck was created, this association was clear. And also Aleister Crowley, who is the creator, actually the, let's say, the brain, but the real artist was Lady Frida Harris in that deck as well. And he also, I mean, like in the Thoth deck, which is Thoth, it's very hard for me to pronounce, but in that deck also, on the cards, you see all these minor arcana cards, the associations with the decans as well. So in few decks you can see direct relationship with the decans.
Okay, so for those who are unfamiliar with the tarot, you've given us some background there, but you've been talking about the different suits, and you've been talking about major arcana and minor arcana. Can you just clarify for anyone who's new to tarot what the difference is between the major and the minor arcana?
Of course, major arcana, which is actually a direct translation, is like greater secrets. When we talk about major, greater, and the arcana is the secrets. And we have 20 in a traditional deck. There are 22 cards there, which are also called trumps, and they are actually telling the story of life, because it starts from zero and it comes to the world, and then you start with the fool's journey, and you are ending the journey with the world to start a new cycle. So that's the, and also, I mean, major arcana cards tend to tell us much bigger events that could potentially unfold in our lives, and the things that are mostly out of our controls, more external things. But when it comes to minor arcana, which is the lesser secrets, as the minor is lesser and the, again, Arcana secrets, we have these 40 cards that are in each suite that is associated one element. They are telling more things that are in our control, part of our daily life, so we can have more impact on the message that is coming through them in a way. Of course, there are court cards as well, which could be people or again the events that could be part of our life and that sometimes could be representing us regardless of the gender of the card, because there are queens and then the kings and then the knights and pages, princesses, whatever. I mean, they are named in differently in different decks. So they are also can represent real people or us, or again events as well. So these in total will go to 78 cards in a traditional tarot deck.
So if I'm understanding correctly, there is a direct influence in that much of this was inspired by astrological symbolism. Is that correct?
You mean the tarot decks?
Yes.
No, it is not, because I mean in Rider-Waite-Smith was a tarot deck, but they decided that they will make these associations based on the Kabbalah and all the information they get from there, and they made all these links with astrology, but it wasn't based necessarily on astrology. The deck was there already, but they decided
I
to include these kind of connections with astrology into the meanings or into the deck in general.
Okay. Yes, that's good. That clarifies things. It's almost bound to happen because the links between Hermeticism and astrology are very clear, and then you have the influence of Hermetic thought on the creation of these tarot decks that you've been talking about. So that's much more clear now. So you are an astrologer. You are obviously very knowledgeable about traditional astrology. And here you are with tarot. How are you personally linking the two and using the two? Are you using them separately or are you using them together?
Okay, so I'm actually not from a traditional astrology background, but I started, I think, learning more in depth last year because I started studying horary astrology with Sue Ward. She's one of the, I think, prominent names in this, I think, in horary astrology and also in traditional astrology. So it was like a must for me to understand all the symbolism behind the traditional astrology. So, coming to how I use, I actually, for example, I wouldn't go in an astrology session and with my tarot cards. But on the other hand, if I'm making a reading and I know the decans, and also in the major arcana cards we have the signs and planets. So I know, of course, what the current sky is, where all the all the planets are moving through the transits, etc. I may get clues, not always, because I mean there is the intuition. No, it's like the context and the relationship of the cards and everything. But I tend to use the hints from the astrology in the tarot readings from time to time. As I said, it's not always, but if there is anything that I wouldn't avoid, I will say, okay, you're welcome. Here we go. I mean, like, for example, I always give this example. It's like there is this, we have the Eight of Cups, and that's the, according to Chaldean order, the decan ruler is Saturn. And when Saturn in Pisces, Saturn last year, when entered, the ingress happened in Pisces, and then you draw Eight of Cups, and you are like, okay, there's the message here. You know, I have the Saturn in Pisces just in the sky happening now, and then I have the card in front of me. Then you start like, I won't go ask like, what is your natal chart, etc. But I will say that, okay, there's a message here. Then I have to think about Saturn in Pisces in this context much more than normal I would.
Yes, that makes sense. So I think what I'm understanding from you is that there are moments where there is a real synchronicity between the card that you are pulling and transiting planets, and that in those moments you've got to pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been talking about how you might use this in terms of clients. How are you using it for you yourself personally?
Yeah, that I mean, I don't know if all the, I mean, tarot, in terms of tarot reading, I mean, like all the tarot readers have that problem, but I have problem in opening cards for myself. I prefer that someone else opens them for me, because it's not like I'm not objective, but it's like, you know, it's like you are looking for yourself, and it becomes like, it's like, am I looking it with the right perspective? Or because you always know in tarot readings, also when you go to an astrologer, if you are going searching for a certain answer, then you always like have that expectation from the chart, and then in the tarot reading from the cards, no, you're always like, what if will it come, will she say now, will they tell me this? So I think I generally avoid using it for myself, to be honest.
Well, see, that's why I asked you the question, because I find using cards that, because our emotions are involved, interpretation becomes much more tenuous. And that's why I wondered whether the astrology could come in and illuminate when you are feeling stuck as to interpretation, because I appreciate that it's harder when we're doing it for ourselves. So do you feel that your knowledge of astrology helps you in those moments where you're going, not too sure?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it would be like, yeah, it gets a bit gray area, I think, at the end of the day. You don't see like, like this, like, okay, it's something in the middle, it's a bit muddy, so what's going on, etc. I think it can sometimes do that impact. So I agree. Yeah.
So the other thing that's occurring to me is that when people go and see someone for a tarot reading, it's usually because they want some answers, or they want to understand how something is going to work out. They've usually got a problem on their minds. And that would be exactly the case as somebody coming to see us for an horary reading. And we know that for an horary reading, we need a very clear question. What do you feel the rules are in terms of the tarot? So would, because I guess what I'm saying is, because of the divinatory nature of tarot, as in the divinatory nature of horary, are there the same rules applying as regards the question that is being asked of the tarot?
It's very absolutely very important as much as horror. I mean, like it's like really. I mean, like I tend to sometimes. I mean, in a tarot reading, I say, okay, let's turn the question, because you wouldn't. I mean, in horror, of course, you can answer yes or no questions as well, but in tarot, since you are making an interpretation, you prefer that that's the question is much open to interpretation. So instead of saying like that, for example, will I marry? Instead of will I get married or something like that, you would want that the question is like, what might the cards tell me about my marriage or potential marriage life, etc. You know, something like that, and you turn the question in a way, because otherwise the other thing would be like stuck and wouldn't give you the same, I think, interpretation that you would get. I mean, you may think that okay, I mean, like you change the question, etc. But on the other hand, when you are getting the deck and the way that you ask the cards, etc., one question and the other can change, and also you give your energy and everything to that. I think it makes a difference. So the questions should be really clear, not very long, and also I don't read third parties, never, never. I mean, if someone comes, like, because I always say that you are getting into the boundaries of someone else. If you ask like, what does he feel for me, or why did he do that? Okay, that's or why did they behave like this? Because it's their stuff. I cannot answer that. If you have anything, I mean, relationship to those people, then ask the question from your point of view. You know, I think it's really important as well.
Yes, and these are ethical questions which we all have to be mindful of. Um, I think it would be very interesting, the combination of using horary and tarot, and seeing what one says and what the other says. Is this something that you have played with?
Actually, I didn't. It's funny. My husband is a scientist, and I mean, he likes tarot, but I don't. He's a bit skeptical about astrology. But for our personal things, when I cast a chart for horary, and then he said, because he's scientist, he wants proof from like any, and then he was like, do you want to maybe open some cards, draw some cards, and then see how do they? And for a few things, yeah, we made some experiments, and I think they tend to go together. I wouldn't do it for something that is like for a person, a querent that comes to me, because they can come for horary or tarot reading. I wouldn't mix them to each other, or God forbid for the diploma questions. I wouldn't do the prediction based on that match to the like. I wouldn't do that, but for personal things, it's a nice way of like, okay, seeing what do they do. I mean, how do they match, if they coincide, if they give the same message, answers, and etc. I think it's a nice way to understand how the things work.
I would think it would be fascinating because you may find, I'm guessing you would find that you're getting the same answer but from different angles and new different information coming through because you're using two different lenses to understand the same question. So I think that that is something that I would love to see you playing with more, and perhaps come back to tell us all about the results of your experiments.
Yeah, exactly. I think horror, if we think about it, it's quite straightforward. No, everything has this, etc. And then, I mean, if you know it, not like me, a newbie, but if you are if you are experienced on that, the picture is clear and there is no intuition or anything playing out, or you see some extra symbol on the card or the image, etc. There is something that comes and just pops up for you. There it is. I mean, like, it's it's more, it's very mathematical actually when I think about, I mean, compared to natal astrology, or like when we make the yearly annual forecastings, etc. Horror is like straightforward. There is the symbols, this planet is this, and their relationship tells me about this. And if you look at also William Lilly, etc., it's like that. I mean, like, there's a formula, I mean, for everything that you are looking at. But tarot is not like that. I mean, it's like you are just like, in a way, there is a magician that is like using all that think information, the cards, the meanings, sometimes the astrology and the images, and then the relationships of the card is completely different level.
And that's why I think it would be wonderful to do both and see how they relate to each other. So Teri, thank you very much for introducing us to some very unusual and perhaps fun connections between astrology and tarot today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you again for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to talk to you and to get introduced to you, not in person, but at least online. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If people want to find you and find out more about your work, how do you do that?
I mean, I have a website, amethystastro.com, is here from my name, they can see .com. And most of the, I mean, online, I mean, on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, I have the whole this name. So they can find me, Teri Nudleman, Amethyst Astro Tarot. So they can always contact me if they would like to chat, comment, or anything like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll be putting the link in the description box. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Do remember to check the description box for my own website as well as my Substack. Next time, we're going to be talking about solar and lunar returns. Until then, goodbye.